listening to She Speaks Talk Radio, where women's words are changing the world.
Hi, and welcome to the Small Steps to Wellness show with me, your host, Mari Craig, where we are discussing how we can achieve wellness in our lives, one small step at a time. Now, today, I'm really excited because I'm joined by Lindsay Carricarte-Jones, and she's been my coach for a long time. And this is the first time I'm seeing her in person, and I'm kind of bursting. And I just have to say, before I share a little bit about Lindsay, that this show kind of started off as me exploring nutrition and me thinking about, okay, what's important to me nutritionally. And I've realized over the last couple of years that if you want to be healthy and if you want to look at health and try to improve your body, mind, you have to get the spirit involved, you have to get everything involved, you have to look at it from a holistic perspective. And this is where Lindsay comes in. So she is a New Thought spiritual even practitioner and the master spiritual psychology coach. She's a quantum healer and host of the Soulbriety podcast, which I started listening to and I love it. As a mental projector, she's an all-around consciousness explorer, and she's devoted to bring the truth to the world, helping sensitive humans heal and unlock soulful gifts. It's beautiful. She does that through trauma healing and the recovery of self, soul, and spirit. Wowee, that's a whole lot of bio there, Lindsay. Welcome to the show. And you have to explain half of that to me because I'm still learning.
That's hi, Marie. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
What time is it where you are now?
It is 9:20 in the morning.
All right. So you're just fresh out of bed, and my day is it's nearly school run for me. Listen, I don't know how you look at health, but to me, it's been the revelation the last few years, and we spoke briefly about it before I hit record, that I kind of grew up with the dad in the pharmaceutical industry, for Christ's sake. So like, I know there was always a paracetamol ready to be popped in our house. And so I didn't understand how everything is connected, but that's been something that's been really revealed to me in the past few years. What is your view on sort of health, and where do you come from?
God, yes. It's so funny too, when I was just listening to you hear you say paracetamol. I know what that is because my husband's Australian, right? Because that's not what we call it.
What do you call it?
It's like acetaminophen or ibuprofen or aspirin.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. Same stuff. Yeah. Drugs.
But it's funny, the pharmaceuticals. Immediately when you were saying that, I went back. So I'm 42 now, and when I was 28, I had cancer. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. And back in my 20s, like, I didn't know anything that I know now. I didn't know anything about health. I didn't know anything about spirituality, holistic wellness. So obviously I found out I had cancer. It was stage 2. And I kind of was like, oh God, like, I don't even know what cancer is, right? I didn't even understand what they were telling me I had. So I went and I did what they told me I had to do. Chemo, radiation. Obviously we all know what chemo and radiation does to the body, right? It just kicks your ass. And so in hindsight, it was shortly after that, like about 5 years after cancer, I obviously beat it, right? Haven't had any more recurrences, but that was when I kind of had an awakening spiritually. And I really started to understand when I looked back on my cancer, I was like, oh, that wasn't just a physical thing. Because it was funny, when I got diagnosed with cancer, my immediate first thought at that age of 28, which was like back in 2010, I guess, around that time, I was like, oh, what caused it, right? I immediately wanted to know what caused it, as though there was some external source of what, was happening to me. And like I said, later on down the road, when I really started to awaken and understand that the body, the mind, the spirit is really a holistic system, I started to be able to see that my experience with cancer and everything else that I had, had in my life or had come up against in my life was directly connected to my own mindset, my energy, and especially my emotions.
Yeah.
Right. Especially stress, anger, all these emotions, when we hold them in, they cause disease, and I totally think, like, I've had a huge shift around this in the last 5 years, where I, like you mentioned, right, growing up around somebody in pharmaceuticals, it's like I used to be one of those people who was so quick to, I have to medicate. If something hurts, I have to medicate. Like, right, let me just get something in my system so I don't have to feel what I feel.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Without addressing like the deeper cause of, well, why don't I feel good? Right? Why don't I feel healthy? Why don't I feel vital? Yeah.
Now that's a big one, because I think, I mean, I've got two kids here. I'm sat in my daughter's bedroom. I'll just blur the background because it's a bit messy. But yeah, we're so quick to go, oh gosh, we can't let our children feel any pain. We can't let them experience anything. We have to take it away from them. We have to make sure everything is always, pain-free, which is maybe kind of, well, detrimental in the long run, and also depriving us of an experience or an opportunity to learn, I suppose. Do you, in hindsight of that cancer, do you kind of sometimes think, I know other people have said this before, and my good friend Miriam, who was the one who introduced me to you, she said she's at the place where she can say thank you for the trauma because of what it has taught her.
Absolutely, 100%. Because when I look back again on my life, and I look back at where I am now, and I see where I am now, and I sit with my own energy and my own consciousness and my own ability to understand life, it's like I can directly see that all of the struggles, the ups, the downs, the pain, the suffering. First of all, I can see how I directly created all of it, right? And so in seeing how I directly was the creator of all of it, it's like that feels empowering. So rather than feeling like I'm like this victim to life, I feel empowered. And then I can also see how all of those experiences, they expanded me, right? They helped me grow. It's like, I don't know where we get this idea that there's never supposed to be a painful moment or a struggle or a suffering in this thing called life, right? Like we have this idea somewhere that we're just never supposed to have any pain. But it's like, in the pain, yes, that's one way we grow, right? Yes, there's powerful lessons. And I feel like it's the pain. So when life is like mirroring to us and we have a moment of pain or suffering, it's like that's showing us what's not in truth, right? What's not our highest. And so it's like we're having a traumatic experience or something that we think sucks. It's like, okay, so what within me, what is the belief, what is the identity here that is having me create this? And I'm feeling pain because that's not my truth, right? So pain is like the motivator. It's like you put your hand on something hot and you're going to go ow, so that you don't keep your hand on the hot thing and just melt away your skin, right? And so life is the same way. It's like when we have a pain or a trauma, it's showing us, it's trying to like push us to move, to get us to evolve and expand, so we can come back into that alignment, and that knowingness of who we are.
I guess you can maybe then handle it two different ways, where you go, well, this is a bit shit. You're allowed to swear on this podcast, by the way. Thank goodness for that. And you can feel like life's happening to me, I'm not in control, I'm a victim. Or you can go, hang on a minute. And I've certainly been at that end of it, right? Or you can go, hang on a minute. What is this trying to tell me? What kind of lemonade can I make from this, right?
Really, yeah, because I think we've all been on that side of it, right? Like we've all had those moments where something's happened, or one of those days, right? Where you ever one of those days where it seems like everything is going wrong, right? Oh God, I got a flat tire, and then I hit all the red lights, and then my kid gets sick, whatever it might be. And then somebody, I spilled my coffee, whatever. It could be all these little things.
I'm laughing because I think I sent you a voice note about it the other day going, oh my gosh, this is happening.
And it can be so easy to get caught up in that and feel like, right? And it's like, okay, but hang on. It's like, why do we get so upset by everything, right? And that's where I really actually feel like that physical embodiment and our nervous system, right? And our ability to like just take that breath and pause before we react. It's like, because we just never know, kind of looping back to what we were just saying about, how Mira said being grateful for the trauma. It's like, we never know what is being born from one thing happening, right? So for example, I could spill my coffee in the morning, which makes me go change my outfit, which then makes me 10 minutes later than I would have been wherever I was going. And in that delay, that could be aligning us with a person that we're meant to meet for, an opportunity. It could avoid an accident. It could, right? We just never know what's playing out because all things are connected. And when we can't see that all things are connected and that something quote, quote, bad might actually be birthing, you know, some new opportunity, like sickness, right? Even sickness, disease, cancer for me. After that, my struggle and suffering in that had a direct like impact on my ability to then look back and be like, wow, my health is directly impacted by my emotions and my energy. I would never have known that without that, right? So it's like it all just ties together.
Yeah, so I guess in the way, I mean, it sounds maybe a bit morbid to kind of say thank you for the trauma, but if you're on the other side of it, you can kind of see, yeah, that does make sense. I understand now. I see what this was trying to teach me, I suppose. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. So that was when you were 28, and you're only a couple of years older than me, so we're both in our 40s. So but what did that do anything to shift you, because you are now a spiritual practitioner? I can't say the word today. And well, how long have you been on that path? Because that's, I guess, what half of the world will call alternative, right? So how long have you been on that path, and what brought you on to training to be a master spiritual coach, for example? What got you on there? And well, that's maybe a bit long question.
I feel like honestly, that's like my whole life path has been leading me to that, right? Yeah. It's funny because when I found spiritual practitioner work, which is in line with New Thought, and it goes back to, it's not new, right? It's nothing new that we're doing as spiritual practitioners. It's really bringing together, right, this ancient wisdom that has been through all spiritual traditions in history. When we look and we see, we start to recognize the interconnectedness of all things. And so when I found those books and those teachings by people like Florence Scovel Shinn, Ernest Holmes, like, which was earlier in my spiritual journey, I started to find the books that some of these people wrote like 100 years ago. They were writing these books back in like the 1920s, the 1930s. And I was like, wow, like this speaks to me on such a level. It was like I was finding that, you ever find that book that you're reading and you're like, this is the information I have been looking for my whole life, right? Yeah. So that's what it felt like. So I was kind of doing and dabbling in all of that on my own. I started coaching. I did like some just regular sort of super third dimensional life coach training to really understand how to coach people. But I always knew, like, okay, I'm definitely meant to help people. I'm definitely meant to guide people. Then I started learning about human design, learning that I'm a projector, which really means, right, like, okay, I'm here to help people see and help people guide and help people evolve. And it was about 2 years ago that I found my mentor, Dr. Erin, her thing is New Thought Global Soulbriety, which is where I did my spiritual practitioner licensing and training through. When I found that community, I was like, I had no idea. I was like, I didn't even know I could study to be a spiritual practitioner. I didn't know that was a thing. And so when I found it, I was like, well, this is a no-brainer, because it was like one of those times where you just find that course of study, if you will, that you're like, this is where I belong.
Yeah.
And it was the first time in my life that in full body knowing, I was like, this is what I'm here to do.
What an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
What an amazing feeling. Because I think maybe I might be a bit similar to you then, because also projector. And for anyone who knows, projectors are supposed to wait for the invitation. So I was saying to you before we got on, so who's supposed to invite whom, and how is this supposed to work? We just sat there waiting for each other. But I think I'm also kind of with sharing and talking to people on this podcast and helping hopefully people to get a broader perspective on what health is. I feel for the first time also like, yes, I've landed. I am somewhere where I truly belong, where I feel at home, I feel at ease. I'm loving this. But that's taken, I mean, gosh, I say to people, gosh, I'm finally knowing I finally know what I want to be, and I'm 40. Like, what is that all about? So, and before we hit record, I said to you, we had this big plan in our head of what we were going to talk about, and I completely forgot. we spoke about living in alignment, and perhaps this is why also for some of us it takes a bit longer to realize, and for some of us it takes a lifetime to realize what it is that we're meant to do, because we're not living in alignment with who we truly are. So is that what happened to you, or is that
Oh
the
my
journey
God.
I'm on potentially?
I think, yeah, we're all on that journey right now, because I think that as we look at what's going on all around the world, right? The shifts, the changes, the things that are challenging people, it's like it's all connected to us as a whole living out of alignment, right? Trying to control everything, trying to speak out there. And then you take us as individuals, right? And this is why in my work, I focus a lot on projectors, on highly sensitive people, on people who know that they're intuitive or empathic, because when we are in that sensitivity and we go through life, right? So much for me, I'll just speak for myself, right? It's like I was constantly trying to be what everybody else needed me to be or wanted me to be. I was so like perceptive to like, well, this is what my parents expect. This is what society expects of me, right? And I was twisting myself into not trying to be all those things. And a lot of times when we really start to, there's a lot of like conflicting things. Oh, I'm supposed to be this, but then I'm also supposed to be this, right? And it's like, what? So we find ourselves at a point where it's like, you know, for me, it happened in my 30s where I really looked at my life and I was like this isn't authentic to me. Nothing about the way I'm living. It doesn't feel empowering. It doesn't align with what I truly believe in here. You know, I chased the like, okay, in my 20s, there were high points where I was making tons of money. I had relationships. I was able to travel. I had a house, right? Anybody would have looked at my life and been like, oh my God, like she has so much freedom. It's so great. And I was like, this is it.
Yes.
And so I just knew that I needed that deeper. And I think that that's really what alignment is about, right? We can hear a lot of talk about alignment where it's like people are still trying to like organize out there to be in alignment. But what we don't understand, and this is like the core of what it is to be a spiritual practitioner, it's understanding that when we just align in here, when we get so aligned in heart, soul, mind, like our authentic truth, everything else comes into alignment. It all falls into place. And then we don't have to be out there trying to manage everything and please everybody else, right? It's just like, yeah, I think that's the journey we're all on.
Yeah, no, there's or like firefight all the external things instead of kind of going within and seeing, okay, where, you know, how does this feel for me? I think you're right. The last couple of years, I mean, I've been walking around the last couple of years kind of surprised that my views that I thought were pretty mainstream and pretty sort of digestible to most people have been like, what on earth? How can you feel that? How can you think that? And I think that's what's gotten me to sort of look a bit within and go, okay, so clearly I'm on the fringes here. So what am I going to do? Because I feel really, you know, uneasy about everything. And so I guess that kind of trauma of the last couple of years, if you will, has, I think it's brought a lot of change and a lot of growth for a lot of people, because we are seeing, as you said, what we truly feel comfortable with, what we truly feel happy with, and what really doesn't sit well with us. So that's been a, you know, coming out kind of the other side, touch wood. I feel like a lot of us are kind of opening up to, you know, seeing how can I live my life differently that works better for me, and that I guess is living in alignment, then, isn't it, a little bit more?
Oh my gosh, yes. Right, so much yes. I'm thinking about the last couple of years that just popped into my head when you were saying that. Is like, again, in my own experience, it's like, I mean, there are people out there who think, and again, right, for me, everything that I teach on, everything that I believe, all the spiritual practitioner work, coaching work, like I told you, right, it's like I've never found a body of information and a school of study where I have felt so at home, so right, so aligned, like this is my jam. I love it. I'm so passionate about it. And then to bring that out to the world, to be sometimes received by people that think it's absolute nonsense, or people think I'm just absolute, like we're crazy, right? To think the way we do. And now that's really being highlighted. And once upon a time, that would have thrown me into like such panic. It would have shut me down. I would have not shared it, right? Because the thought of someone coming onto my thing and being like, I don't like what you're saying, or right, whatever it might be. And there's so much projection happening in people who aren't able or willing to do that deep inner work and healing. Now they're getting very challenged and very triggered. So there's a lot of projection, right? There's a lot of like, I'm gonna just throw all my stuff at you. And once upon a time, I would have taken it all and I would have let it shrink me and I would have let it shut me down. And I would have discarded that feeling in here of what I know to be so true and so right and so authentic for me. I would have put aside in favor of pleasing everybody else.
Yeah.
And over these past 2 years, that has absolutely been the biggest release of my life, the biggest healing of my life, because it's like, I think we're in this like kind of precipice point of recognizing where there's like one side of the spectrum where everything wants to just be so like hyper inclusive to the point where it's like, well, now you're just not talking to anybody, because if you try to please everybody, you're not talking to anybody.
Yeah.
And nobody's benefiting from that. And then there's the other side where those of us are really like coming into alignment and authenticity, where we're recognizing it's okay if I'm not for everybody. It's okay if not everybody likes what I say. I get to have my own opinions and experiences, and so do they.
Yeah.
Right? To me, that's real freedom. It's like, how do we begin to evolve to come to the place where we all recognize that we're all having our own experience, and we get to do that together. And I don't have to, have anybody believe what I believe, and I don't have to believe what other people believe.
Yeah.
And I can still love them, right? I can still hold them in love and honor and truth and compassion, because all of the anger and the hate and the rage people are holding, it's like, that's going to be the biggest thing that impacts people's health. I swear by that. You know what I mean? That is something that I 100% believe, that the biggest thing that is like bringing people into sickness and illness and all of the things we're seeing right now is all of that, just that the anger and the fear, the fear.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and it's not something we just sat here thinking, oh, this might be true because we feel it. I mean, stress causes cortisol levels to rise, and eventually you're going to have more inflammation in your body, and inflammation is the root to an awful lot of illnesses. So it's not like, or it's been associated with an awful lot of illnesses. So it's not something that we just sit here and go, oh yeah, I think this is the case because I've experienced it myself. But actually, I mean, with the studies I do now around culinary medicine, it's literally stress is such a big factor, and I think we tend to overlook, and we tend to also go, but this is society, this is how we need to live. And as I guess as projectors as well, we feel we're in this society that is not kind of run by us, and we feel like we have to just sort of keep up, not live in alignment with who we truly are, and basically burn out as a result. I think for a lot of us at the end, and that's certainly not bringing any wellness in our lives, as this podcast is trying to achieve. Yeah. So how do we get into alignment then? How do you help your clients to live in alignment with who they are? Where do we start?
Yeah. So for me, because I did too, I tried to do all the things out there. And what I started to realize, so probably about 2 years after my like big spiritual awakening, I was on the yoga path, right? Which, I mean, I love yoga. I love breath work. I love all of that study as well. But I was really into yoga, and it's like what I was seeing in other people and then starting to see in myself was that, right? It's like I could go to yoga and I would feel so peaceful after a class, and I would eat well, and I was vegetarian and vegan at one point, right? And all the things. And then I was still like full of rage, you know what I mean? At other times I was still operating up here all the time, stressed out. My nervous system was on high alert. I was still in survival mode, right? And so that then led me to where I started doing my own inner work. And then obviously that birthed me doing the deep inner work with other people. And so I really truly believe in like it's like a sandwich. That's what I've kind of like coined it, a sandwich approach to our healing and our wellness journeys. And that is that if we approach it from both sides. So on one side, approaching it from the physical, absolutely, right? Like cleaning up the diet, getting moving, right? It could be any kind of movement, breath work practice, embodiment work. I personally am a huge fan of craniosacral therapy as a body modality, acupuncture, we were talking about acupressure, right? Anything that works physically on the body, but then also pairing that with that deep subconscious reprogramming, trauma healing, energetic work, quantum work, which is just basically, another word for energy work, because it's just the idea of quantum healing is just getting to the very smallest root of the issue. And I feel like when we do both, it like brings it together, right? And then we find that our life is like this nice overall like whole picture, like a nice sandwich, right?
Yeah. What's inside the sandwich, right?
A really good one, a wholesome one. Because one of the things I started to see, it's like people would clean up their diets, right? They would work out, but then they would be like obsessive and militant and stressed out and full of judgment for people who weren't living that way. And I was like, hang on, like, okay, yes, you're eating healthy, but what state are you living in inside, right? And so it's like, it's got to be this holistic picture, because when we're truly in that alignment and we clear out the trauma and we let the nervous system relax and we get all the junk out of the subconscious mind, guess what? We're naturally going to choose to eat better. We're going to choose to move. We're going to choose to, right, like make better choices. And I'll say one last thing about that, because it just popped into my head. So I feel like it's relevant. So I once read a study when I first was getting into trauma work, and I was really also kind of working with the chakras a lot. I read a study that somebody did where he had two groups of people who were struggling with weight and obesity. And he took both of them through this whole, plan with eating and diet. They lost weight, but one group also received deeper healing work. They received trauma work. They received trauma healing, and the other group did not. Every single person in the other group who had lost weight ended up gaining it back, because as they studied them more, they started to recognize that the weight was a buffer for these people, because the trauma inside just had them not feeling safe. And the people who received the trauma healing work didn't gain the weight back.
Yeah.
They ended up like moving into just a more holistic health. And not that like a number has anything to do with our health, right? It's just, how do we feel in our bodies, right? How does our body function and feel? And so that was really profound for me when I recognized that, when I read that study, because I was like, it's true.
And I think
I
think also if you approach from both sides, as you said, and I've heard this as well. I listened to a podcast in the UK with the doctor called Dr. Chatterjee, and he's very known in the US as well. And he also mentioned the study, and also he's seen patients who've kind of struggled to lose weight after a certain point, because actually the weight might be there to protect you emotionally. Yes. But
so big.
But I think also when you approach it from both sides, so for example, for me, nutrition wise was the first step I took. And then that led me to have more kind of energy or the surplus energy to look at other things in my life, right? So then I added on my training. And then I was at the point where I was like, okay, I can then now start adding on other things, I was more receptive to other things, because I actually had the bandwidth to look into, okay, what else is it that I can focus on? So I think, but also I think also, as you said, rightly so, if you start in the other end and looking at what's going on inside you, really, once you heal that, you're not going to want to fill your body with junk. So that's why, I like your sandwich. Yeah,
I love that. And I love that you said that, because it's the perfect, it's just, there's no one, and that's the thing I think we fall into too, right? We all want that like one thing, that one way. Somebody just tell me the one thing I have to do.
Exactly.
So much more than that, right? There isn't just one way. There's no right way that's right for every single person. We're all going to find our own way. And it's like, for you, the perfect thing is like, right? So it started out here with the physical, but then you were open to that next layer, right? You were open to going into that next thing that was
I
kind of right
became
where you were being
open.
led.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
became
as
open
you,
to it Wednesday.
yeah.
But it's interesting. I actually did a post on that on Instagram the other, well, I think it was today even, about like there's not one magic thing that's just going to solve everything. I mean, and I wonder if maybe that's also why calorie counting has been so popular, because it's like it's giving us a system, because we want something that we want to measure. That's the society we live in. I want to measure, okay, what am I doing? And actually, so when I tell people, well, if you want to change your life around, or like lifestyle, if you want to lose that weight, or if you want to feel healthier, better in your body, blah blah, patience. And that's something we can't be dealing with patience, because that just takes too long, right?
Now.
Yeah.
It's so bad here too, because like I don't know for you guys over there how fast Amazon takes, but like there are places here where you can literally have same day delivery, right? Same day delivery. And I think back to being a kid, you used to have to like post your order in and then wait for it to come, and it would take like 2-3 weeks at times, right? And it's like now everything is digital. I can have it right away. I can download it now. I can get it shipped to my house next day, same day. And I feel like, yes, that's all beautiful and it's all awesome and it's all amazing where we've advanced. And I think internally in our consciousness, we also have to advance to recognize, like, yes, we can have things that are fast and some other things take time, and that's okay too.
Yes, exactly. And so it's like when you do trauma work and everything, it's like, actually, so what do you mean I have to do the work? I have to actually spend time doing it. I have to look at this. And you know, I'm totally committed to the work that we're doing together. But even I saw this one video you posted that you tagged me and you said, watch this. And I thought, gosh, the thing is nearly 2 hours long. This requires effort, because I think we're so used to now. I'm working my way through it, but I think we're so used to now thinking that everything has to be so snappy, and it causes again stress. So what is the answer then, I suppose? So where do we start? I mean, we should all be working with you, right? But for those of us who can't or won't or whatever, where can we start to get a bit more balance and feel like we're a bit more aligned? And I guess especially as projectors, where we kind of feel like we're being overrun by everyone else and taking on so much stuff from everyone else that it can feel really overwhelming at times.
Totally. Yeah. And I love that. So one of the things too, for everybody to remember, regardless of, right, if you could work with a coach, if you could not work with a coach, wherever you're at, it's like contributing to what you just said too about, right, the 2 hours for the video or whatever, right? Oh, I actually have to put in time. It's like to remember that, like, whatever we give our attention to, right? It's like paying attention, right? We're paying, there's a cost, there's a price. And that's the thing we feed, right? So whatever we're feeding in our lives, that's what we're going to magnify. And so someone who maybe is just starting out and it's like, oh God, where do I start? It's like, right, get a book, go on YouTube, come on Facebook, come on Instagram. There is so much valuable free resources out there that can begin to educate you, that can begin to expand you. And it's like, right, oh, okay, I got to sit and watch this thing for 45 minutes. But if you start to remember whatever I'm giving and I've done it too, trust me. And when I heard this, put it this way, that there's always a price and I'm always paying a price. It's just, what am I paying for?
And when are you paying it? And
when are you, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, damn, okay. So that means every time I'm kind of trying to shortchange my morning meditation practice or my spiritual practice, it's going to feel it in favor of what? Going over here and scrolling on my phone, or, you know, sitting and just doing like nothing. Because sometimes as a projector, when I get tired, I want to just sit and do nothing, which is fine. And I can still do that spiritual practice, right? So I think that that's the key, right? For anybody, no matter where you're at, something you can begin with right now is to begin to just connect in a spiritual way to yourself, higher self, spirit, source, God. It doesn't matter what you want to call it, right? It's just, you could go out in nature and sit and look at the trees or look at a flower. It's just mindfulness even is a wonderful place to start, to just begin to let yourself unplug from what's going on out there and start, because you're ultimately, every single one of you hearing this is going to guide yourself. You're going to bring yourself to exactly where you need to go, whatever resources you need you're going to find them. They're going to find you. Like Rumi said, right? What you seek is seeking you. So where to start? Get really clear on what it is that you want for your life and yourself, and then allow it to start to come to you. Allow yourself to let go of what's not that and welcome in what is that.
Yeah. And feel that you deserve it when it comes your way
Yeah.
as well.
That can be a big part, right? And that's a big trauma thing. I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
I don't, oh, it does. What do you mean it gets to be easy? It can't be easy. I have to suffer. I have to struggle.
Oh my gosh, there's so much I could say about that. So much I could say about that. And so much I could ask you about that. And would you mind sharing with me how people can get in touch with you? I mean, you can send it, we can put it all in the show notes, and you have a couple of freebies as well, I think, that you share with people. And if people want to get in touch with you, is Instagram the best way of kind of going deep? Because we could sit here and talk for hours, and there's so much. I've got a barking dog downstairs as well, so that's great. That's adding to my, I'm just breathing through it. It's all good.
I can hear it. Yeah.
It's all good.
We're Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, we're practicing patience. It's all good. It's all good. But I think, so for me personally, finding you, I was open to finding out, you know, how to get more alignment in my life, because I was feeling stressed and I didn't know what to do, but I was open, and there you were, right?
Yeah.
Yes, via a friend. And then I was like, oh, but I have to pay money. Oh, and actually it's not the money, am I worthy of actually receiving that?
Yeah.
And then I had what I call a bit of a fucking moment, where I was like, yeah, I'm just doing it, and I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do this. And I have to say, I mean, as you said earlier, you might not be for everyone, but for me so far, the work that we're doing has been truly enlightening, and it's yeah, enlightening. I think that's the best word to describe it. And I do feel that it's helping me also lower my shoulders, where normally I would have been like, you know, and that truly brings more wellness, right? When we'll see what works for us, what doesn't work for us, how we can, I don't know, use how we're put together in a way that benefits us and benefits thereby those around us in a better way. You know, it's been really, really enlightening for me to look at this. But a couple of years ago, I would have poo-pooed the whole idea. So there you go.
I love that. That's such a testament to everything we're talking about, right?
Yeah, but this is how we grow.
15 years ago, I would have too. I would have looked at myself now and been like, oh boy, what that? She's like out there, okay. And now I'm just like, nope, yep, I'm that person. It doesn't matter. I get it. I know. I believe it. And I don't need anybody's approval on it. So it's so liberating.
Yes,
know?
Exactly.
I love seeing you grow and expand and open and find your confidence in everything you're doing too.
Yeah, no, I mean, there must be one of the great things about being a coach as well, that you see people really getting it, and they had that moment where they go, I get it now, this makes sense. Yeah. And then so when you've experienced it yourself, I guess you want to pass it on to others as well, of this is how much joy and how much pleasure and how much relaxation and how much all the positives you can have in your life if you do a bit of the hard work and really get to the bottom of, okay, what's triggering me, how, you know, when I respond like this, what does that actually do? And when you can really, really dig down and sort of it all kind of unfolds, it's amazing, I think. I mean, some of the questions you ask me, it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought of it that way. That's really interesting. And then some of the questions like, oh shit, she really sees me. This is painful. But you know that actually
the power of having a projector in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think this has been really, really useful. And I know a lot of projectors are going to listen to this and going to go, right, I need to find this woman. So what I'll do is I'll put all the information about how to find you in the show notes, and then I can find you. And I think what you're doing is so important. And I love that so many of the people I speak to who are coaches, and actually people who work with nutrition as well, they're coming from a personal point. They're coming from something has happened to them in their lives, and they've recovered from it, or they've grown from it, and now they want to pass it on to others. And I think what a gift.
What a gift, right? Yeah. It is a gift.
Yeah,
it's the best gift we can give.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like it's just, that's the contribution we're here. That's how we're going to evolve and change and shift consciousness and create a more beautiful, aligned world.
Yes,
Starts
exactly.
within here. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. And also, just to finish off, I love also what you say about we can all sit here and have these conversations. We don't all have to agree, but we can all, you know, have love and empathy and sympathy for each other. And as we do in the UK, I don't know what it's like in the US, but we can also, okay, you know what? Love this conversation, completely disagree with it. Now should we go down the pub and have a pint?
Right.
Yes. That's all it's about, right?
How boring would it be if everybody thought exactly the same thing?
Yes, exactly.
What would that serve, right?
Yes.
It wouldn't serve, but it's wild, you know, it's wild.
So in the knowledge that we're not all going to be palatable to everyone, but those we meet that really, really respond to us and we respond to them, that's where the magic happens. But in order, I guess, for that to happen, we need to know who we truly are within and be in alignment with that. So yeah. Really.
Truly, and be in alignment with our true authentic values. Yeah. Amen to that.
Yay. What do you say in New Thought Global? And so
at the end, and so it is.
Yes. Yep. And I love that. I love that because it's like, it's, I don't know what you would call it, but it's just, you say all these things, and when I often find when I hear you say that, you say, and so it is. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
It's done. And
yes.
So it is.
Exactly.
No matter what we say, and so it is. Yes. I'm sick, and so it is. I can't afford it, and so it is.
Yes.
I'm wealthy, and so it is.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to sit with that for a bit. Right. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for being on. And I don't know if I woke up too early or if it's all good.
No. Perfect.
But I will be sharing all the notes on how to get people, how to find you on the show notes. But thank you so much again for coming on to the show and sharing this wisdom. I think it's so important that we start looking further afield to find out what really brings wellness into our lives. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you. It's been awesome and so much fun.
Oh, great. Love it. Take care. You've been listening to the Small Steps to Wellness show with Mari Craig. I am passionate about helping mums get their energy back through simple nutritional changes, because we know that if mummy is happy, the family is happy. If you would like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram under @smallstepstowellness, or visit my website smallstepstowellness.info. Speak to you soon.